it's Liz from Old Staples Crafts. Thank you so much for joining me again today, and welcome to my first post for the Blogging Friends blog hop. I am so thrilled to be part of this amazing team. So, our theme today is Harvest Moon. We actually in the UK, most of our harvest is kind of gone now because we had a very hot summer early on. Things kind of got harvested earlier, but still, I can embrace Harvest Moon. So I'm using the Autumn Greetings stamp set, which is bundled with the Autumn Essentials dies. I love this stamp set. It gives you lots of opportunity for colouring, which I really enjoy. Autumn Greetings is a nice, it's not winter, it's not summer, it's just a good reason for sending a card greeting. Give thanks with a grateful heart is perfect. Hello there friend is absolutely ideal for the moment. And may this season fill your heart with home, heart and home, with the joy of friends and family. Which again, at the moment, I think is quite important when actually we can't see friends and family that much still. Certainly in the UK at the moment, things are a little tricky. So I have used the 3 ears of wheat. I'm seeing these as ears of wheat. Now, if anyone's ever noticed, you may not have done, I wear a signet ring, which was my 21st birthday present from my parents, and it has an ear of wheat on it because that is the symbol, the crest, from our family coat of arms, brain, if I would use a brain. So ears of wheat are really important to me, so of course I would use the ears of wheat. But what's useful to know, if you're not heavily into Halloween, there are pumpkins that you can just die cut, as well as the pumpkin that you can stamp and die cut. So if you are in need of something Halloweeny without it being really Halloween, this might be it, particularly as you've got other amazing things to use as well. So I have got my card that I've already made, which I'm going to replicate as near as I can. So I'm in ink blending mode. I've admitted I'm in ink blending mode, so let's just accept I'm in ink blending mode. So it's ink blending again. I've got my craft sheet. This is just a slick surface, which I find really helpful for ink blending because it means you can blend off the surface. The other thing you can use is, the silicone mats are a bit small, but you could use them. For me, that's going to be a bit small. What I have used is the back of something that's had sticky on it. So like stamps have, by stamps I don't mean stamps, I mean stickers. So like the release paper for the adhesive sheets would be perfect. But something slick is really what you're after. In an ideal world, you could, I suppose, use one of our window sheets. Anyway, so I'm starting with a piece of, she says hopefully, apparently not, Whisper White cardstock. You couldn't make it up, could you? I have just used my last Whisper White base. So I'm going to make some more very quickly because I can trot these out like I'm half asleep. So there we go. I can do 2 in almost no time at all. The measurements that I use are always on my website, and that is linked in the information in the description bar. And if you click on the associated blog post, you'll go straight to this post. So really easy to find. Okay, there's 2 mats, just like that. Almost blink and you miss them. So I'm going to use one of these, and then I'm going to use a really technical thing. I'm going to use a piece of Post-it note, which I've mounted onto a piece of paper, just so that it's got a bit more oomph to it. And what you want is a circle punch that is roughly 1 inch. You can use a die. I happen to have one of our retired 1-inch circle punches, but that's the sort of size you're looking for. It's not vital that it's 1 inch. It's just, for me, that worked out at quite a nice size. And then you can peel your scrap paper off the back and pop it down onto your card front. And the reason I put the paper is because trying to put a post-it note through a punch, there's not enough substance. So yeah, doesn't really like it too much. So I'm going to start with Bumblebee. It's you're going to think it's a really odd combination of colours. So I've got Bumblebee, Cinnamon Cider, Misty Moonlight and Cherry Cobbler to do my colouring. I'm going to start, as I say, with the Bumblebee. Might need a little bit more than that. I've got a dauber, which I have got a little bit of glycerin on. Now, I've been asked before, what do I use? I do often show it. It's just cooking glycerin. It's nothing exciting. You can get it in your supermarket, in the baking aisle. It can go into some icings, as in not royal icing. It's one of the other ones. It's the oh, my brain's gone. Anyway, it's for baking. My mother, bless her, when she was alive, would make wedding cakes, and she had glycerin as part of her stock items. So, glycerin. It's just glycerin. It's nothing more or less exciting than that. So that's my first colour. I'm going to be blending quite a lot, so bear with me. Next is some cinnamon cider. Going to need a bit more of that. I do like to take it out of the lid if I can. I have been known to take it out of the pad as well occasionally. If you're doing a large area and you can get the re-inkers, which in Europe we can't at the moment, you can use a re-inker. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the cinnamon cider round there, just to soften it down a little. We will be putting some more Bumblebee on anyway, but I'm just going to blend this in a little bit. So that's my cinnamon cider. That probably is all of the cinnamon cider I'm going to use. I'm going to pop a tiny bit of cherry cobbler. This is my cherry cobbler dauber anyway, so I'm just going to see if there's enough, because this may be enough. Don't want a huge amount. It's just to get that slightly blood moon. I'm already getting ink onto here from my fingers. I will show you a little trick on that in a moment. So that's my cherry cobbler. Now this is the one we're going to need a lot of. You could use a brayer. Personally, I don't think I'm going to have enough control. So for me, I would rather use a dauber. And then my really high-tech protector is a post-it note. So I'm going to pick up some more ink and come in. We're going to be laying down a lot of Misty Moonlight. But as I say, for me, using a dauber is easiest. I'm going to add a little bit more glycerin to my dauber. I'm going to just add some to a block and pick it up from there. It just helps everything move a bit better. Going to have to move that. You don't want to have that in place when you're going over the area that you are inking, because otherwise you're going to get a harsh line, which is not what we want. That's, after all, why we're using the glycerin, is to reduce the chance of a harsh line. So let me just move that a bit so I can come down here. As you see, it just helps keep body and soul together. You can just use a scrap of paper. I just find that using a post-it note means that there is a little bit more traction. I'm going to get a bit more ink out of my ink pad. But the idea is to build up your layers. You could use Night of Navy. In fact, you could use a combination of Night of Navy and Misty Moonlight. But I really do like the Misty Moonlight, particularly when we're looking at moonlight. It kind of seems right somehow. So just, as I say, slowly build up your layers, and you want it darker away from the moon. And then we're going to come over our cherry cobbler a bit. And we're going to blend all of this back in again. But we do want our colours to be reasonably even and reasonably well blended. And if there's anywhere that's a bit lighter than you want it, just, you know, spend a little more time on that. So that's our Misty Moonlight. So we're going to come back in with our, actually we're going to put a bit more Misty Moonlight over the cherry cobbler first. And then we'll come in with our cherry cobbler again. And this time we can come a little bit further out. And then we're going to come in with our cinnamon cider, and again we can come a little bit further out. And then a little bit more bumblebee. And then you can take that off. Now you don't want it to be white, white, white. You want it to be softer. And you can actually go for a little bit of texture if you want. If you ever look at photographs of the moon, it often isn't flat. I mean, we know the moon isn't flat, so you can have a little bit of texture if you want. So there we are. That is our harvest moon. I think I might put a little bit more cherry cobbler on. I haven't quite got the amount I want on there, so let's just add a wee bit more. And then we will call it done. Let me just bring this in again. It's a very light touch, and I tend not to, when I'm doing a really light, well, when I do blending generally, I tend not to put the blender on my finger. I find I've got more control if I don't. That's a bit better. Just a little bit more of the Misty Moonlight, and then we will call it done, because I'm sure watching paint dry, which is almost what we're doing here, is probably not your idea of a fun way of spending your day. Okay, so next thing I want to do is add a little bit of twinkle. I don't know if you can see on here, if I can get it to catch the light, there's a little bit of glimmer, and I've done that just with our good old friend, the Wink of Stella. So I'm going to grab my bone folder and just smack it onto my bone folder and see what comes out. And there's, you may not be able to see this, but it's really adding a lovely kind of starry night effect, which is kind of what I'm looking for. So can you, I don't know if you can. Bringing this in might help. Suddenly realise it's off in the wrong direction. So I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully I'll be able to get a half decent photograph showing just how much sparkle there is. Now I'm putting everything onto, I know I had another one. Don't you love it when these things don't go according to plan, which is basically my life. I was going to say I was going to put it on a cherry cobbler card base, and I thought I had one spare, and apparently I don't. So that's fine, we will do one of those as well. So the way I prepare my card bases is take your sheet of card, and I want a top folding card that is portrait. So whether you are using 8.5 by 11 or whether you're using International A4 as I am. So for International A4 I put it at about 14.8 centimetres, because the height of International A4 is kind of a 29 point something something, which is really unhelpful. If you're doing 8.5 by 11, then you would want to score at 5.5. So score, turn it through 90 degrees. I'm going at 10.5 centimetres. If you're doing 8.5 by 11, you will be doing 4.25, and slice. And that way you cut once and you score once, or rather you score once and cut once. which saves a step, and then just fold that in half. Now with the International A4, you may find that one of your halves is slightly longer than the other. Just put that one at the front, and actually it's quite nice because you've then got what they call a leading edge. Okay, so that is going to go on there. So let me grab some, actually I'm going to use seal, and I'm just going to do it round some strategic parts. And yes, I know I'm putting it onto my card base. I do sometimes like to put it on my card base rather than on my card, and when I've got a lot of ink floating around, I do find that helps not transfer the ink off onto your crafting area, and you don't want to lose the ink anywhere. So, and then just gently press from behind, and that's your card mounted. Now I've got a piece of Misty Moonlight card, that's the word I'm looking for, and I've also got a scrap of one of the brushed metals. Actually, I'm going to use, I might use the darker one. No, I'm going to use the gold. So I'm going to use this one, which is the one I used before. So I've got an embossing buddy, so I'm going to use my embossing buddy, and I've got the Autumn Greetings stamp all mounted up. So just need to grab my gold embossing powder so that's ready to go. I'm nearly out of gold embossing powder. I have some spare, fortunately, but my tub is nearly out. So I'm going to stamp this as straight as I possibly can. I'm going to be trimming this down, but I like to stamp first and then I can trim accordingly. If you cut it to the exact size you need it from the get-go and you stamp crooked, you're going to be in trouble. So I want this ultimately to be 3/4 of an inch wide. And the easiest way for me to do that is to start with something that is nearer an inch wide and work backwards. So that's my embossing powder on. And you know what I'm going to do, if you've been with me before, I'm going to grab my trusty cheese board and pop my greeting onto that and heat up my heat tool. And while I'm doing that, do remember that if you don't already subscribe, it would be amazing if you would consider doing so. It's in the little button in the bottom right hand corner. And if you hit the alert bell, YouTube are no longer sending emails to alert of new videos. So if you use the alert bell, you will at least know when you go to YouTube that I've got a new video up. There we go. It is very fine. It's one of those, you know, it's there but not quite. But I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, this I'm going to trim down to 3/4 of an inch, and the easiest way for me to do that is with my trimmer. So I want, right, that's an inch. So I want that. That looks straight. I'm going for straight as well as width. So that looks straight. And then if I pop this on the 3/4 inch line, now I'm going to need to trim a little bit more off the bottom. And it wasn't actually straight. That's better. And then that goes on the 3/4 inch line. And I will trim some of it off with my snips in a moment. I'm pressing really quite hard here because it's not actually against anything. But there we have a 3/4 inch piece. The little bits of fuzz on the edge are because I was actually trimming almost where there wasn't anything. So you can just come in with your snips and get rid of those. Really not a problem. It is just what happens when you try and get your trimmer to work where there really isn't anything for it to trim. Okay, just need to, a little bit there, that just needs to be straightened. There we go. Right, so that's 3/4 of an inch. This bit's easier. Don't know why I put my trimmer away, because I need it. So this I'm going to cut from the back so that there is no possibility that I will scratch the surface. It's the brushed metallic from the new mini catalogue, and it is gorgeous. So we like that a lot. Well, I don't know about we, but I like it hugely. Just a little bit of fuzz there. So I'm going to trim as straight as I can there. Pop this in. Actually, I'm going to pop it in face down so I can just make sure there's no stamping coming out the end. And then again, this one I'm going to pop in face down. Easier if I put it on my work surface, of course. So pop that straight down and punch that. And we can then adhere one to the other. And I'm going to use my seal again. Now remember, with seal, if you, whichever surface you put the seal on, that is the surface it is going to favour if you then want to pull it off, because there's, you know, you haven't put it on straight or whatever. So just bear that in mind, because it may be important for you at some point. Now, I have already die cut some of the leaves, not leaves, ears of wheat. How can I call them? Leaves. So what I want is, I'm going to do some surgery on some of these. So I want one that's going that way, then one that's going the other way, ideally, so that's going the other way, and then one that's going straight in each of the colours. There we go. So these are spare. So I want a representation or a representative from each of the 3 colours of the brushed metallic, for no good reason, just because that's what I wanted. Now, these are going to go underneath this, and they're going to be stuck to this surface, but they're going to be stuck with the aid of some seal, but also some dimensionals. So I want this one to be coming behind the A, really, and I will be doing some surgery at the bottom as well. So let's have everything straight. That would be good, wouldn't it? Then I can see where everything's going. So that one's going to be going about like that. Then this one I'm going to do some surgery on. So I'm going to take that away. Might use it later, but for the moment I'm taking it away. And I'm going to pop that there. And then I'm going to pop the long one in the middle. Yeah, really wanted that a little bit further. I'm trying to stick it to something that hasn't got any stick on it. Yep. Right, so I'm just going to do a little bit of surgery on the back whilst holding those in place. And then I can add some dimensionals over the top to keep body and soul together. So I've one there, and I'm going to be a little dimensional heavy at this point. Actually, I might, yeah, no, that's all right. One there, and might put a half in there or a side piece, and then I need a little bit out the edge, which I think we've got. So let's do a side piece to fit in there, just so that I'm comfortable that all of those pieces have been held down. And then peel these off. And good grief, we're at 25 minutes. I don't know. Please do go and look at my blog, because then you can join the hop. And I'm sure that the other members of the design team are going to have some amazing, amazing projects to share with you. So don't miss out on those. And turn that over and, whoops, trim from the back. I am going to leave these bits hanging out, because they will fit into our envelopes, because we've got very generous envelopes. So that will be fine. And then the only other thing that I need to do is stamp on the inside. Now, I've done something that's going to look really odd. I've got the big stamp, and I'm just going to use my Bumblebee Stampin' Right marker, and I've only put it on a D block, this stamp. It's fine. I don't need to get my big block out for this. This will work fine. So as you see, I've used the side of my Stampin' Right marker, and then I'm just going to huff on that and just come in to the bottom of my liner, and there we've got some nice ears of wheat. And if you're concerned that they've been cut off in their prime, you can just come in with the other end of your marker and just draw those lines in. It will all dry back to the same colour. And that just slips on the inside of our card. So let me just add some seal and we will be good to go. So I hope you've enjoyed that. As I say, please go and have a look at the other inspiration along the blog hop. There are so many of us now in this group, it's going to be amazing. Some really, really talented Stampin' Up demonstrators. So there we go. This is the one I made earlier. This is the one I've just made. I hope you enjoyed that. Do have fun with it and have fun making some autumn projects. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye!